On the left wing, and you'll notice there's no Rashford in this team. Where's Rashford? Well, I would sell Rashford. I would get rid of him. I think that Rashford, because I remember Rashford's debut under Louis van Gaal, and I look at that Rashford, I think he was 18 years old at the time, and the Rashford of today, and there is no difference between those two players. There's been no development since he was 18 years old. He's no better than he was when he was 18 years old. And sure, you might say, well, for a couple of seasons, he's scored more goals than when he was 18 years old. But the reality is that the reason that he didn't score those goals when he was 18 years old was because, number one, he wasn't the main man on the pitch back then, and number two, he gets more playtime. That's it. That's the difference. But the reality is that playing on that left wing, what does he do? Skip inside on his right foot and try to stick it in the opposite corner. That's what he's done his whole career. He hasn't developed into sort of a more sort of consistent striker of the ball. He doesn't score any more goals in different ways than he did when he was 18 years old. He really has not developed into anything else. His passing's not improved. You know, his creativity's not improved. His shot placement's not improved. His shot power's not improved. His heading's not improved. He's the same player he was when he was 18. And look, I'm not sure exactly how old he is at this point, but from that stage to now, you would expect that people would start to make progress. There are players that I have picked who have improved since that time. And David De Gea, for example, is a better goalkeeper now than he was 10 years ago. Luke Shaw is a better left back now than he was 10 years ago. Wan-Bissaka is a better right back now than he was 10 years ago, you know? And Wan-Bissaka 10 years ago was 16. And Rashford 10 years ago, he was probably around the same age, maybe a bit older. But the reality is that there's been no improvement for Rashford. And you keep re-signing him to these contracts, probably because he sells shirts. But he's nothing special. Marcus Rashford is not a special player. You know, Manchester United fans favour Marcus Rashford quite a lot. And I understand why they favour him quite a lot. He's one of Manchester United's better players. But that just shows you how far that Manchester United have fallen rather than how good Marcus Rashford is. The reality of Marcus Rashford is, I'm going to say something which might seem controversial to you when you first hear it, but the reality is, and you'll agree with this, I guarantee you'll agree with this when you think about it, instead of letting it touch your emotions, think with your brain. Marcus Rashford is a worse player than Antonio Valencia was. Think about that. Antonio Valencia was not a special player at all. Antonio Valencia was quick. He could get the ball in the box, which Marcus Rashford doesn't do, but he could get the ball in the box, and he was damn hard working. Which Marcus Rashford is not. So, of those three attributes that Antonio Valencia he stood out a bit. The only thing that Marcus Rashford has that Antonio Valencia had was pace. That's it. That's Marcus Rashford. He's a shit version of Antonio Valencia. If you were to bring Antonio Valencia back, that 2012-13 squad that I showed earlier, when he was 27, bring that Antonio Valencia player back and put him in this squad, he's one of the best players there. He might be the best player there. That's how poor this Manchester United squad is. That's how poor Marcus Rashford is. But we look at him now as a great player, or a good player, relatively good player, because all of the players at Manchester United are steps down, levels below the Manchester United squad that Antonio Valencia played in and was not considered particularly good in any shape or form. They had much better players in that team. Robin Van Persie was a better player. Rooney was a better player. Michael Carrick was a better player. Rio Ferdinand in his pomp was a better player. Evra was a better player. So there's 3 or 4, maybe 5 players in that Manchester United team that Valencia played in that were better than Valencia. But because Rashford is one of the 5 players that we would consider of the best at Manchester United, in our minds, it kind of raises him up higher than he actually is. Marcus Rashford isn't that good. Get rid of him.